There's a plant on almost every continent on Earth. It feeds billions. It shaped borders, built empires, started wars. It can't move. It can't think. It has no brain, no plan. And yet, in just a few thousand years, it convinced the smartest species alive to clear its forests, haul its water, fight its enemies, and carry its seeds across the entire planet. We call it a crop. By the end of this video, you might call it something else. The plant is wheat, a wild grass that 10,000 years ago was nothing special. It grew in scattered patches across the Middle East, mixed in with hundreds of other plants. No one worshipped it. No one depended on it. It was just grass. Today, wheat covers more of the planet than almost any other plant on Earth, and the story of how that happened is usually told as a story of human triumph. We were clever, we tamed the wild, we invented agriculture, and agriculture built everything you see around you. But that story has a strange crack running through it, because when you look closely at what farming actually did to the humans who started it, the triumph begins to look a lot more like a trap. To understand why, you have to picture life before the first farm. For most of human history, nobody farmed at all. People lived as hunter-gatherers, small bands moving across the land, taking what nature already offered. And this was not the desperate existence you might imagine. Foragers ate an enormous variety of foods: nuts, fruit, roots, fish, game, honey, dozens of different sources. If one failed, another was waiting. Their diet was rich, their bodies were tall and strong, and studies of their skeletons reveal something surprising. They were remarkably healthy. They also didn't work very hard. Many spent only a few hours a day finding food. The rest was for rest, talk, and children. It wasn't paradise, but in many ways, it was freer than what came next. Then, around 12,000 years ago, in a region we now call the Fertile Crescent, something changed. It didn't happen overnight. Nobody woke up one morning and invented farming. It crept in slowly, almost by accident. Wild wheat grew thick in that part of the world, and people noticed its seeds could be gathered, stored, and eaten through the lean months. So they returned to the same patches every year. Then they cleared space so more could grow. Then they saved the best seeds to plant again. Each step felt small. Each step felt reasonable. Nobody could see where it was leading. But here's the strange thing. While humans thought they were taming wheat, wheat was quietly taming them. Farming did one thing extraordinarily well. It produced a lot of calories from a small piece of land. A field of wheat could feed far more people than the same patch of wild forest ever could. And more food meant more babies. This is where the trap begins. A hunter-gatherer mother, always on the move, could only carry one small child at a time, so births were spaced years apart. A settled farming mother didn't have to carry anyone anywhere. She could have child after child. Populations swelled, and once they did, there was no going back. Imagine a village of 200 people living on wheat. Could they simply return to hunting and gathering? No. The land could never feed 200 foragers. The only way to feed that many mouths was to grow even more wheat, which meant clearing more land, which meant more work, which meant more people. The cycle tightened with every generation. Humans were now locked in, not by chains, by mouths that needed feeding. And the cost was brutal. Imagine you're one of those first farmers. You wake before sunrise and walk to the same patch of soil your father broke before you. Your hands are scarred, your lower back aches, and it has ached for years. This is your whole life now. The same field, the same crop, the same endless work. From the day you can walk to the day your body finally gives out. And the bodies did give out. Look at the skeletons of the early farmers and compare them to the tall, healthy foragers who came before. And the difference is shocking. They were shorter. Their bones were weaker, their teeth rotted with cavities from a diet suddenly drowning in starch. Their spines show arthritis and worn joints from a lifetime bent over the soil. And new diseases appeared, illnesses that thrive when crowds of people live packed together beside their animals in their waste. There was a new kind of fear too, one foragers rarely faced: famine. A hunter who lost one food source simply moved to another, but a farmer who staked everything on a single crop could watch it fail in a drought, and then there was nothing. Whole villages could starve in a season. But the deepest change wasn't to the body. It was to the shape of human society itself. Stored grain could be counted, taxed, stolen, and hoarded. For the first time, some people could control the food that everyone else needed. Kings, soldiers, tax collectors, the gap between the rich and the poor, much of it grew from one thing: a surplus of grain that somebody had to own. By almost every measure that mattered to a single human life, the switch to wheat made things worse. So why did it win? Here's where you have to stop thinking like a human and start thinking like a plant. Evolution doesn't care about happiness. It doesn't care about your health, your freedom, or whether your back hurts. It cares about one thing: how many copies of you survive and spread. And by that measure, wheat didn't just succeed. It pulled off one of the greatest takeovers in the history of life on Earth. Think about everything humans now did for wheat, completely for free. We tore out every competing plant so it could have the sunlight. We carried water to it. We guarded it from the animals that wanted to eat it. We fought wars over the land it grew on, and we carried its seeds to every corner of the globe, planting it on continents it could never have reached alone. And here's the part that's easy to miss. Wild wheat scatters its seeds the instant they ripen, flinging them into the wind so the next generation can grow on its own. But every so often, a freak plant appeared that held onto its seeds instead of dropping them. In the wild, that plant was a failure. It couldn't spread itself. But it was exactly the plant a human could walk up to, cut, and carry home. So generation after generation, without ever intending to, humans kept harvesting and replanting the wheat that couldn't sow itself until they had bred a crop that physically cannot reproduce without us. We made wheat helpless, and in return, it made us dependent. The historian Yuval Noah Harari put this in a way that's hard to forget. We like to say humans domesticated wheat, but you could just as easily say wheat domesticated us. It took a wild, free-roaming ape and turned it into a creature that spends its life serving the needs of a grass. A few thousand years ago, wheat was one unremarkable plant among thousands. Today, it grows across millions of square miles, tended by the most powerful species on the planet. From wheat's point of view, this was the greatest success story imaginable. Except, wheat can't imagine anything. It just got lucky, and we did the rest. Now, this doesn't mean farming was a mistake. That explosion of population, as painful as it was for individuals, is the reason any of this exists. Cities, writing, science, medicine, none of it is possible without farms feeding millions of people who no longer have to hunt. You are alive right now because thousands of years ago, your ancestors made a bargain that was miserable for them and extraordinary for the species. That's the strange truth buried in the deal. As individuals, the first farmers lost. They were sicker, more overworked, more fragile than the foragers before them. But as a population, humanity exploded. We traded the freedom of the few for the survival of the many, and wheat was the currency we paid in. So think back to that plant from the beginning, the one that can't move, can't think, has no brain, and no plan. The one that somehow convinced the smartest species alive to spend 10,000 years working on its behalf. You don't have to look far to find it. It's in the bread on your counter, the pasta in your cupboard, the cereal you'll pour into a bowl tomorrow morning without a single thought. And maybe that's the most human part of the whole story. Every loaf, every bowl, every meal shared at a table is the far end of a bargain your ancestors struck 10,000 years ago, without ever knowing they were striking it. They gave up so much, and somehow, here you are because of it. So the next time you tear off a piece of bread and pass it to someone you love, hold it for just a second longer. You're holding the whole strange story in your hands. The hunger and the harvests, the aching backs and the rising cities. 10,000 years, folded into something so ordinary you've never thought twice about it. We always believed we were the ones doing the taming, but tonight, out there in the dark, the grass is quietly winning, and now you know why.